Samsung wants to attack Apple, especially the iPhone. With this device here, this is the Galaxy Alpha. And as you can see, main reason for it is of course the design. We have a metal frame around here that's a little bit scratched on the front and on the back, and we have that a little bit more thickened edges down here and up there or everywhere. And that's very unusual design, but very classy, very high class, especially because of the very thin thickness, because it's just 6.7 millimeters in most cases. All right, we have the camera lens here that's up to 8 millimeters, but in most places I measured 6.7 millimeters. And we are talking about just 66 millimeters in the width, and especially width is the depending on how compact a mobile phone is feeling. And so you have no problems if you're just using one hand to cover at least most parts of the display. That's 4.7 inches, by the way. I'm coming to this a little bit later on. But you have no problems to reach all these navigation buttons down here with just one hand. That's a fortune if you have just a width like that. And we're talking about 132 millimeters height and only 114 grams. That's extremely lightweight, especially for a phone like that one. 4.7. I call it always a kind of good compromise because you can reach, as I showed you, with one thumb all the parts, but it's not too small to have, let's say, to read email or websites or whatever you want to do. I find this 4.7 inches kind of great. At least for me, it would work perfectly. On the other hand, you should know that we are talking just about a resolution of 720 by 1280 pixels. And that's kind of, let's say, sportive, because the recommended retail price, at least here in Europe, Germany, from Samsung is 649 euros. That's heavy. And then I would await a full HD resolution at least. But no, we have not. And it's Super AMOLED as we know it from Samsung. But there is good news too. Let me start in the background my magnifier over here so that you can see. And let me go a little bit closer. Here we go. As you can see, it's no pentile matrix, but that diamond matrix we know from the S5 and S5 Mini and Note 3. So nevertheless, even if it's just 720 by 1280 pixels, you have a good resolution, not these little bit unsharp edges on tiny texts or whatever. So as you can see here, you can read nevertheless very well, but it's too much. The price is too high at the moment. I can give you numbers if you want to. It's 47% below the average, what you get on pixels, number of pixels compared to the price. Or let's go to sharpness. We have 314 ppi. And if you compare that to the price, that's 39% below the average. Average build out of all smartphones of the last 12 months I've reviewed and tested. So you're getting not very much pixels and not very high sharpness for your money. But that's the design game Apple is playing here. Sorry, Samsung is playing here. And Apple, of course, too. Yeah. Sorry for that. So here we go further with the octa-core processor. As you might have heard, this is a Samsung Exynos called 5430, meaning you have eight cores, octa-core, but you have to know that only 4 of these 8 cores are, let's say, high-class cores called Cortex A15, for those who know what I mean. So these are the high quality cores, 1.8 gigahertz, and the other 4 cores are, let's say, for low energy cores, Cortex A7, 1.3 gigahertz. So this is a compromise too, you have to know. But on the other hand, you have, this is called a big little architecture. You have the chance to use or to set your cores as you need for, let's say, power consumption and multitasking and multimedia and whatever, with very low power consumption. And I've checked that with a testing routine, because I'm always running a full HD video, and especially with high white picture parts, because to get what AMOLED, that there's you need to see that what white pictures are doing on AMOLED, because we have just a battery not fixed in, by the way. That's something I really should say. Even if you're just having a 6.7 millimeters flat build phone, you can see it works. It is possible if you want to remove the battery nevertheless. But this one is a small one. It has just 1860 milliampere hours. That's a little bit under dimension compared to the display size, but nevertheless, in this runtime test I did with this full HD, very high parts of white video, maximum brightness of the display, flight mode, it ran 378 minutes, and that's compared to the average, 9% above the average. So nevertheless, if it's just a small battery, nevertheless it's running 9% more above the average than other smartphones. So don't be afraid if this is not the biggest battery. I guess that's or partly at least the result of that Exynos processor using its cores very not using that much power at that moment. All right, here we go. On the other side, we have, of course, most parts like on the S7. First of all, the design of the backside, and we have that 12 megapixels cameras shooting videos in 4K, meaning, or Ultra HD, meaning 4 times full HD. And this over here, it's no dual LED flash. This is just a white flash over here, and down there, these two things is for pressing up your finger, and it's measuring your pulse, your heart rate. And below this mechanical home button down here, there is again that fingerprint reader we know from the S5. So this is mostly the same, but there is no optical image stabilizer, you should know. It's LTE, it's dual cell HSPA, Wi-Fi AC, Bluetooth 4.0, NFC, but there is no water or dust resistance, IP whatever, so you should be a little bit careful. Some drops of rain is no problem at all, but you shouldn't drop it in the sink or wherever, so no IP. And the biggest point I wanted to show you, let me open this again, is, as you might have seen, and that's the problem with the Galaxy Alpha IC, there is no slot for SD cards, so you can't expand your internal memory, and that's, yeah, 32 gigabyte. It's not less, but you should know from these 32 gigabyte are left net. If you have updated all pre-installed apps, left 25.3 gigabyte. That's the value you should calculate with, 25.3 gigabyte net memory left. And if you have a camera with 12 megapixels, shooting videos in 4K, you have music, you have notes and contacts and messages and whatever. So these 25 gigabyte is not that much. It's not small. Don't get me wrong. You can store a lot of memory in that, but nevertheless, if you think of 4K videos, yeah, well, then you get in trouble if you're shooting a lot of videos. But on the other hand, you have down here on that micro USB slot, you can plug in a optional, that's 4 or 5 euros or whatever, an optional cable for USB on the go. So at least you can plug on, let's say, USB flash sticks or external HDDs if they have a their own power supply. Then you can transfer a lot of data to these memories, but nevertheless internal, or you have cloud of course, but nevertheless internal memory 25 gigabyte, it's a little bit too less in my opinion, especially, and that's again my point, for the price of 649 euros, a recommended retail price. I would have expected at least 64 gigabyte internal memory, or even better, a slot for SD card. Yeah, then, last point, it's of course Android 4.4.4, the newest version at the moment, and you have that typical Samsung user interface called TouchWiz, so you know what you're getting. It's like the same on the S5, Note 3, whatever you know. And you have different colors, black, white, silver, gold, and blue, I guess. Yeah, that's enough for a first impression, or at least I hope so, for the first impression of the Samsung Galaxy Alpha. Please remind to recommend my channel and to subscribe to it. Thanks for that in advance, and take care.